dokie. Sorry, I had some settings I had to adjust. As usual, I am late. I am on brand. It's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Yeah. I shouldn't have made this quite so early in the morning. I know it's not like technically early in the morning, but when you have like 2.5 hours worth of footage to go through, it's early in the morning. So hi, how is everybody? How we doing? We doing good? Forgot you had the live stream open and you got greeted by a disembodied voice. That's always fun. This update has so many bombs. Yeah, it really does. Oh my goodness. It's something. I admit I'm a little overwhelmed. I don't know how much we're actually gonna get through today. Okay, I really don't, because there's a lot. Like a lot. And I don't even know where to start, man. Like the trailer isn't even the bulk of everything that we were shown, and I don't know how well we're gonna be able to scrub through all of this to find all the little bits, but like, holy cow. Also, I watched this last night live, not live on like a live stream, but like live as in I watched it as it was premiering. And then I went to bed. and then when I got up this morning, I haven't actually reviewed any of this. So like I don't know. I don't know. There's some things I've noticed that I think are really interesting. And I think I'm going to have a heck of a time trying to point them all out. So I am, at least in part, going to be relying on you guys a little bit, because more eyes, the better. This is going to be great. Live stream is at 5 a.m. for you? Yeah, it was at midnight for me. It went till 2 a.m. So like, man, I don't know why they changed the time. I thought it was fine where the time was, like as far as, you know, what time it was over in China versus different parts of the US. I guess it was really, really bad for EU time zones, but I feel like no matter when you live stream something, it's always going to be kind of bad timing for like one group at least. So as for Hoyo Fest, oh yeah, I guess maybe could have been. Still strange. Capitano really is just King Desert wearing a mask. I will die if that ends up being the case. I don't think it is, but I think it would be funny. No, you know, as far as Capitano goes, right? Where the heck is he? He's in here somewhere. Little dude, where are you? Little dude, like he's not huge. Yeah, so like, I don't know if you guys noticed. Oh, you probably did. You guys have probably watched this way more times than I have. There's a few things about him I think are interesting. Just for the record, for posterity and all that, like some of the best candidates for Capitano's identity are Eamon Locker, who was a knight at Dragonspine, and also the Bloodstained Knight. Those are two very good candidates for him if he's not a NATLAN native. But one thing I thought was quite interesting, you can actually see he's got a face. It's just completely blackened out. Like it's like he's wearing nylon stockings over his face. That's what I mean. He just doesn't have, anyway. He's got a really interesting like aura around his sword. And I think it's weird because like I thought at first this was the same kind of aura that like Shao has, you know, with the karma and stuff. Because it's kind of this blackened, ghostly smoke. But it's actually kind of blue. And it does contrast nicely with Mavuika's stuff here. So I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. But it did remind me a bit of Karma. No, we're not entertaining the Minogia stuff anymore. That was ages ago. You gotta update your theory to match the new information you got. You catch when he said they'll never get heat stroke? Yeah, I saw that. I couldn't quite tell why they said that. I guess they said it because he's wearing this really thick coat. But I guess if he's using cryo, it would make sense. But I'm almost wondering if like this is just a cryo delusion, though. I think it's a cryo delusion. Because the delusion usually has like this smoky effect, doesn't it? But here's the other thing, right? Here's the other thing. When we look at his face, the fact that his face is kind of a void, but you can totally see, like, it's not like he's just a hollow mask. You can see he's got, like, bone structure, right? Like, he has a whole face. Like, there's his nose where his cheek goes, right? So, like, there's a face in there. But I'm wondering, not thinking about my own theory or anything. I'm not. This is kind of separate from that. Gotta update based on new information. Where's the thing? Where's the thing? Where's the thing? Somewhere in here. So there's the whole thing about when you lose. Look at all these ghosts, man. These things are creepy. When you lose, you also lose your ancient name. But what I thought's interesting is you can actually see these pillars down here. These are the obsidian pillars that each tribe has, right? And a celestial nail, which we'll get to eventually. But you see all these obsidian pillars down here just kind of chilling. And then, come on, where is it? No, I don't care about Beyblade Boy right now. We'll talk about him later. Sorry. Where is the thingy? Oh, there he is. I found him. I found him. It's the chunky one. Okay, so this guy, right? This guy. Wow, that's a lot of blessies. Thanks. So this guy I was looking at, right? You've got an obsidian pillar behind him. And these obsidian pillars are, again, like the thing that the ancient names are carved onto on each of the tribes, right? So you've also got like this ghostly dude with the same kind of blackened smoke that Capitano has. And it kind of sounds like this line might belong to this guy. We'll see. But I'm wondering if, like, this guy is a ghost of this obsidian pillar, right? Like someone embodying the name. And I'm wondering if Capitano might be a similar kind of thing. Like, where he might have lost, and maybe he lost his ancient name. So, like, he has an obsidian pillar down here, and he's a ghosty kind of thing like this. But he escaped this night kingdom. Wouldn't that be interesting? The sneeze triggered. Oh, that's funny. That's super funny. That's super funny. Yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking when we started getting into these obsidian things. So the interesting thing about obsidian is, as far as I know, it's only been mentioned a couple of times as a material in the game so far. I'll give you a chance to guess where one of the most notorious mentions are. And if I told you it's from the Desperate Weapon series, you probably wouldn't be surprised. But it's also mentioned in Liyue. I think it's a different type of obsidian that's mentioned in relation to Ajdaha, actually. So I do think that's interesting. Oh. What's the matter, Finn? Finny, go outside. Go on. Desperate should be the heavenly principles. That would be a twist, wouldn't it? But yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at with Capitano right now. We'll see how that goes. Definitely something about his name. He feels a bit more connected to this region than... I don't know. I'm like torn on whether I think he's like a bloodstained knight sort of character, or if he's a NATLAN native. I'm like 50-50 on it. But I feel like if he has an ancient name, then he would have an obsidian pillar, and then that would work with that whole idea that like he might have escaped the Night Kingdom kind of thing. I guess I'm leaning a little bit more towards the NATLAN native, especially like he does feel a bit draconic in places. Like if you look at his hands here, you gotta admit these are kind of draconic claws, you know? And then a few people have pointed out, let's see if we can get a good shot of this. NATLAN native ghosts possess the Bloodstained Knight. Honestly, maybe. So you can kind of see, like, I don't think this is his arm. It might be, but like you can see there's markings that look like scales, regardless of whether or not it is his arm or his armor. The fact that it's very draconic is very cool, I think, anyway. And it, cool, ice, yeah, So I don't know. Because if it's Mondstadt, making it cryo makes a lot more sense. But if he's like a NATLAN native that it's using a cryo delusion, it also makes sense. I don't know. Being a little bit more draconic makes me feel like he's more Natlanian. Cap, thank you for the super chat. Do you think alchemy will be relevant in because of the Act 2 title? Any thoughts on Kenich's Ejaz given the pixel computer kit similarities to Nahida? Two-part question. So, I don't even know where to scroll in here to find the thing. I really don't. I'm just gonna let this. I'm just gonna let this run in the background. I do think alchemy will be relevant, but then again, alchemy is always relevant. But there's like a how do I put this? There's like physical alchemy where you're transmuting physical objects from one form into another, but there's also spiritual alchemy. So part of me wonders if we're going to be looking at like a combination of the two, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And also we have to remember that like they said we're going to have an Archon quest in 5.0 and then 5.1, and then they're going to skip 5.2, which I think should fall around December into January, right? Is that right? Should fall around December. And I don't know when I last said this. It was on a recent, it was probably on the last stream. But for the first couple of years, December was like Albedo's time, right? That's his whole alchemy niche kind of thing. And like his, it was like the Dragon Spine event, you know? He was kind of like Genshin Santa because he came around wintertime, gave us lore presents, and then left. But because Simulanka has that whole thing about reviving Durin, 5.2 being like an interlude quest with Albedo on Dragonspine with Durin would be very interesting and really cool timing as far as like the Natlan quest goes. As far as like Kenich's stuff with the pixel and computer similarities, most of the Dendro characters in Sumeru, at least, or not even most, but like 3 of the Dendro characters in Sumeru are all digital, right? Like you've got Nahida, you've got Alhaitham technically, because he's working with like light physics. And then you've got Kaveh, who's got his little mechanical djinn with holograms and everything like that. So like, I don't think it's off brand. Dendro is a pretty digital-ish element, all things considered. So I think it's more like an Irminsul reference because Irminsul is kind of treated like a computer. And Irminsul is also the root of Dendro power. I love this shirt. It's so funny. So like I think that's why it's like that. But NLBV 5000, thank you for the super. Hope you're well after your development job. Can't relate to PMs, or can relate to PMs promising the moon. Does anything change now that Capitano is confirmed Harbinger #1? Not for me, really. I guess the only thing it really does change, like theory-wise, is whether or not whether or not Piero is number 10 or if he's number 0. Like I'm obviously inclined to say number 0 because I think that's cooler symbolically, but like he could be number 10. Like he could just not be very strong. So there's that. I'm kind of skeptical about that part though. I think it's still just trying to figure out who number 10 is. I think beyond that it doesn't change a whole lot. So, but you know, oh my goodness. Raven 2785, thank you for the super. I have a theory that the time puzzles in Simulanka are all about the curse of the wilderness. I'd like to hear your take on that. By time puzzles, do you mean the fate puzzles, like the rewind ones? I'm not too sure about like calling it the curse of the wilderness though, because like the curse of the wilderness feels different to me. Being able to rewind fate. Okay. That's actually that's something I feel like I should actually write more of an essay on instead of trying to answer that here, just because it's not really on topic for the stream. But know that I am working on a Hexencircle / mostly Alice focused video, because I do think Simulanka gave us a lot of insight into what's going on there, and I will address it in depth at that point. So you'll get a video response to your question, I guess. I'm not convinced about the Curse of the Wilderness thing because it does feel different to me. It does feel a lot different. Could number 10 be reserved for Lenny? Maybe, but like we're looking at the Crying Mask as being number 10 because it's the probably most likely. I say. As like we actually know everyone's constellations, but like Linny's constellation isn't on the wheel, so his constellation would have to change if he goes on the wheel. So the other possibility is that what's her name, Crucibina, was number 10 and her constellation is still there, or the constellation is from someone that we haven't even met yet. Okay, we're never gonna get through the actual live stream if you guys keep sending me supers, just so you know. So if I don't spend that much time on these, I'm sorry, but I kind of want to try and stay a little bit on topic. I know I'm not good at it, but I'm gonna try. Jesus. Seal, thank you for the super. You didn't say anything, but thank you all the same. I appreciate it. And Landon, thank you as well for the super. Haven't been a watcher for very long, but I always get excited to see a new video and see how you will relate it to Dash. I like how that's my thing at this point. Keep up the amazing work. Can't wait to hear more theories and rambling. Listen, I am gonna do my Desert deep dive eventually. I have acquired new pieces recently, like for that theory. You'll see. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be so much fun. I gotta pause here. We gotta pause, and I want to show you guys something. Couple of things actually. So do you guys see this right here? This sun symbol that's on the banner. This is probably not a great. Hold on. I don't think I put it in here yet. You guys get to watch my process. This is gonna be great. My process of pre-organizing things. Let's see if we can find it in here. Oh yeah. We just need to see if it'll give us a top-down view. Now I gotta go back to Simulanka and go try and get all of the stuff I wanted. Okay, it's not gonna be this one. Might find one in this one. Probably. Maybe? No? Oh, come on. Where did I put it? Man. Oh, this is the one thing about going through like pre-labeled footage is like Nothing's labeled, which is not helpful. All right. Well, oh, you know where it might be? It's this thing here. I don't have the, I don't know which clip it is that has like the actual full shot of this lily pad in the middle from like up high. So I'll have to go get it eventually, but like this is probably the best I can do for right now because I don't know where the rest of it is. But like I was looking at this and then I was looking at this and I'm just like, huh, that's interesting. Those are kind of similar-ish. And it kind of stands out in a pond that's like entirely green. One other thing I kind of wanted to point out though is we do see like a fire banner over here. And you can see this bird. You see this little like twisty bit at the top of its head? And it's got these wings here. So I think there is a Pyrosaurian. And I think based on what we've seen so far, like the ability to indwell into Saurians, right? I wonder if Mavwika actually comes from, isn't like an actual god. I wonder if she comes from a tribe, and specifically if she comes from this tribe. And if her whole Phoenix thing is just her indwelling into a Saurian. Because this looks just like the Phoenix that she turned into here, actually. Let's grab this. Where'd she go? There she is. Let's grab her. Yeah. See, it's got the little thing. You see it? So it's a red bird, Phoenix. It's got the little thing on the top. So the way I see it, this is most definitely this. So there's definitely one of these. And in looking at some of the other banners that they had hung up, it looks like there's a cryo one as well. I think. Or maybe not. I see it's Dendro, this looks like Electro, and then like a you know, whole country, and then Hydro, and then Pyro. For the banners. There might be more that I just don't see right now. That could be. Oh my god, I hate this auto-generated chat summary thing. Make it go away. Every time I switch views, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna generate what's going on in your chat. Listen, I get it. So that's 4 of our 5. Yeah. Is there an Animo one? I don't know. But the thing is Chaska is Animo, right? So if we look at like all of the characters that are available, right? Chaska is Animo. You can kind of see it. I don't know if we can find like a good view quickly of her thigh so we can see her vision. But I've seen some screenshots shared in Discord of her, and you can actually very clearly see her, the Animo symbol on her vision. So if she's Animo, right, then there is only Cryo missing from the lineup. And we've got Capitano, who's like this ghostly figure. So maybe he was from a Cryo tribe, and there's no longer a Cryo tribe because he lost the last thing and got deleted. So. Sit Lolly. Oh yeah, Sit Lolly is Cryo. You're right. I forgot all about her. She wasn't in the trailer. Oh, that sucks. I like her too. Oh, I like her design. I wish she wasn't quite so pale, but you know. Oh, it's not 2 Cryo Karos. You guys are right. It is Sit Lolly is Cryo. You're right. You're 100% right. But Chaska is Animo. it's just gonna be a real pain in the butt to find where that is, because this is like a 2 and some odd screen. Blech. Oh, it's gonna be such a pain to find it. Capitano has long hair, Minogius. No, we're killing that theory. Let it die. Let it die. I took Sitlali's leave me alone too seriously. Listen, I am respectful of her boundaries. All right, I have no idea where this is in relation to this stream. I just know there's screenshots. I don't know where she is. Here's some. This is not a good, this is not a good shot, but you can kind of see she doesn't have, it's not cryo colored. It is animo for sure. 1800, oh, it's at 1805? Where you can see it? Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, you're right. Hold on, it's probably better if we just... Yeah, okay. We have to increase our resolution here. Enhance! Yeah. Yeah, you can see it quite clearly here, right? You can see the animo symbol. Yeah. Where's the Pyro MC? They went through it in the stream. We're not going to get Pyro MC. Probably until after the whatchamacallit, the final thing. She looks a mess. Oh, you mean Chaska? Yeah. Weird, why was she cryo in the ignition? I don't think she was. I think it was just like the color was slightly off. They didn't even reveal the pyro statue. They showed half of it. They showed the bottom half. If she's read and mentioned as being from the Flower Feather clan, doesn't this support the idea that Bird Saurian is animo, not pyro? I mean, it could be, sure. It's possible. It's just that this bird here is quite obviously pyro-ish, and it turns into Mavuika, and it's even got the little thing on the top of its head to make it look exactly like a bird. So, like, I'm just assuming it could be both. It could be neither. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We will see. Oh my god, I'm gonna find a way to turn off this chat summary because it keeps taking up half my screen. That's so annoying. Why is it like that? Gee, thank you for the super. Do you think the war aspect in NATLAN is connected to the flower war rituals? I don't know what the flower war rituals are. A ritual war fought intermittently between Aztec Triple Alliance and its enemies on and off for many years in the vicinity of regions around ancient... yeah, maybe. That could make sense. Especially considering it's called the, what is it? Something flowers? Flowers resplendent in the sun-scorched sojourn. What a tongue twister. Yeah, I mean, that would check out. That would make sense to me. I think the point is, though, that, like... I think the ultimate takeaway, though, is that, like, Hoyo doesn't want to have, like, an all-out war across the entire nation, so they're just they're using ritual as a proxy for the art of war. So in this case, yeah, Flower War seems like a great candidate. If not the candidate, honestly. Seems like a good thing. Why do you think the statue doesn't let the traveler access the pyrovision right now? Because that's how it seems like. Oh, wow. I'm so backwards. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Twardy, for your super. I got distracted by your question before I even registered what was going on. Why do I think the statue's not actually recognizing anything? So, the way I see it, right? The traveler goes around and they're either unlocking their own power or they're borrowing power from something else in order to rebuild their own power, right? So, in my opinion, there's something wrong with the Pyro Nation in the sense of like, it doesn't have enough power that you can borrow. Like, there's no surplus. And I think part of that is because they're using, I'm going to say this wrong. Is it the phlogiston? Phlogiston, that stuff. Yes. This stuff. So what I'm thinking is they're basically pumping all of their energy into suppressing the abyss so that they can actually like support and protect their nation, that there's nothing left for the traveler to tap into. And I don't think there will be anything left for the traveler to tap into until after the Archon quest, when things are resolved and or we get the Pyronosis. Because I really feel like that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to go into Snezhnaya next year with the Pyronosis in hand. I don't necessarily think we're going to give it to Capitan or that he's going to be able to take it. And there's a few reasons for that. But a lot of it is just because in my head, the traveler is a star, the star is a sun. They're all kind of like related together, but they're also big flaming balls of gas that are on fire because fire emits light. And like the traveler's whole thing is about power of light, friendship, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. So I think we're going to be a ways off on Pyro Traveler, which is kind of unfortunate though, because like we're going into a Pyro region and there are no Pyro characters, which I guess is kind of makes sense because we have so many Pyro characters anyway, and like all of them are kind of DPSs at this point, or like not all of them, but like a lot of them. But I was really hoping for like a Shangling replacement, and if it's not Mavwika, like we're out of luck for another like 6 months at least. I don't know how I feel about that. But you know, this is not okay. Bennett and Shangling need alternatives. God, yeah, please. Electro Janssen was unexpected for me. I definitely expected her to be Pyro, so I'm a little disappointed, but she also looks really cool, so I'm not that disappointed. Wolfie, thanks for the super. You can see the banners better during the storybook part. Slightly better look at the banners at 5410. Oh, this is still running. All right, let's take a look. Oh, right. Good point. They were part of this. Oh, okay. And all of them are only visible for a second before they do a transition, of course, because that's how we roll. All right. So. Come on. Move that greenish light out of the way. All right. So we have Hydro on the right, Dendro right next to it, then Geo to the left of that. And then I'm really thinking this is Pyro because why would it not be teal then? Like I know Geo is kind of also reddish, but like there's no teal at all here, so I'm kind of, I don't know. All of these banners at least have the primary color of their element on here. So I'm really thinking this is Pyro. I think it's Animo that's out. I'm gonna guess this one's electro, which means this one must be cryo. I'm assuming. Also, there's like that whole Nightwind tribe, isn't there? So like, wouldn't that be like a missing 7th tribe that's like hidden underground? That seems reasonable to me. Like realistic anyway. So Animo is missing. Why? I don't know. Well, Animo is death. Honestly, low key though, yeah. I legit. I mean, I've said it before. I made a whole video about it with Animo and its death motifs and all that. With fire being like the cleansing preparation for rebirth kind of stuff. But like when we have the whole Nightwind stuff, right? Like when you go to the Night Kingdom, it's just a place full of ghosts. Right? It's a whole underworld kind of thing. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I think there's a 7th tribe that kind of like guards the Night Kingdom, and I think that's the Nightwind tribe. Looks a lot like Inazuma. It actually looks like the chasm. Low key, it's way more like the chasm than Inazuma. Cause like, I'm gonna pause it right here. You see this? You see these? This is gonna be hard for me to find really quickly. I'm sorry, but I'll try. Actually, do I have it under MISC? I don't think I have it under MISC. I don't. I definitely don't. No, I don't. I don't have it under here. Tell you where I can find it. Or I can find some of it. There we go. Okay. Look at these and tell me they don't look familiar. Like, this thing right here is also, this would take me a while to actually find the right clip for. But in the chasm, you can find these like diamond-shaped stones like this that are like sealing off passages that you have to cleanse, right? This is very chasm. Even the flowers down here are very chasm. The colors are chasm. There's a celestial nail down here, which you can, and actually there might even be 2. Okay, there might actually be 2. So the reason I say that is because if you look here, there's one right here. You see that? There's one right here, but there's another one right here. This is the bottom of the tip of a celestial nail, and I don't think that's like the same one. I think those are in 2 different spots. So there are 2 celestial nails. See? This is a better shot. Look, you can see half of it right here. You can see the bottom half. So I think there are 2 celestial nails in this Night Kingdom, at least. Maybe. Thoughts on the Night Kingdom and the Boar Princess? I have a lot of thoughts on the Boar Princess, but I don't know how to articulate them well. I really, 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 really don't. I really don't. I really don't. What I will say about the Boar Princess is I do think that the squirrel in Simulanka is also supposed to be a reference to the Boar Princess, but I have a really hard time articulating why. Are you sure that first one is a nail? It's not glowing. Yes, I'm sure it's a nail. It's the exact same shape. Look at this. It's got the little flowing bit right here. It's got the swirl. It's got the little light swirl. Here, I'm going to do a thing where I playback speed 25. Or, sorry. We are going to like go super slow. You can see it right here, right? It is the exact right shape. It's not glowing, you're right. But remember that in the chasm, there was... come on. This is not an external drive, and the external drive doesn't like to cooperate with me like quickly all the time. You see how it's covered in this black gook, this blackish purple abyss gook, right? So it was kind of implied that the nail was getting overwhelmed by the abyssal gunk down here in the chasm. And it had to like get some extra help in order to get to where it needed to be. So my thought is that this one's been overpowered over here. I think this one's been overpowered. And also keep in mind that like the celestial nail and like dragonspine and stuff, that one's not glowing either. The one in the chasm is glowing, but I wonder if that's because it's actually surrounded by these different light actuators that are like supporting it with additional power to make it glow. Was the abyss trying to cleanse the abyssal nail? I don't know if it was trying to cleanse it. I think it was trying to do the opposite. I think it was trying to prevent the nail from doing its job. Do I have any ideas on the Marjavari? Like, where is it? I have no idea. The only hypothesis I have right now is that it's might be related to like a crater or a meteor struck, just because there's a couple of meteor references in this area. So there's that. In the Teyvat trivia section, it said that Kaya was born in Conria. Any implications or an oopsie by the VA? And it doesn't mean anything. I think it's possible that he was born in Conria. And I think the implication here, and we've always kind of known this with Kaya. We've always kind of known this with Kaya. How do I put this? There's some weird timeline shenanigans when it comes to Kaya and Arlecchino's birth and Conria, because both of them should be natives to Conria. And for them to be born in Teyvat would be interesting, but it would also mean that anyone that was born to any of the Conrian survivors, like there would just be a lot more of them. And it's implied that there just aren't. There's like 2. So because of that, I'm either thinking there are just not that many, I'm thinking there are either just not that many Conrian survivors, period. So there's very low birth rate, or there was no birth rate and that both he and Arlecchino were born in Conria, and Conria exists outside of Teyvat's time. So I've said this a couple of times, and I don't really feel like I've ever explained it well. I don't think I've ever really explained this well, but like the way I see it, if Teyvat is kind of like in its own time bubble where time moves in a very specific way, and we already know that there is some sort of interesting time shenanigans going on in the Abyss, no matter how you decide to like explain it away or rationalize it, because of Child's story where he's just like, oh, well, only 3 days passed in Teyvat while 3 months passed in the Abyss. But we don't necessarily have to have it like as a 1-to-3 ratio, right? Like or 1-to-30, I guess in this case, it's a 1-to-30 ratio. It doesn't have to be an exact ratio. Like the thing about existing in its own little separate space and time is that if you look at the Abyss Order and how they traverse those little wormhole portals, they could be moving not only through space in this giant network that exists outside of Teyvat, but they could also be moving through different points in time. So it's actually possible that whenever we encounter our twin, we're encountering them at a different point in time. Like maybe we're encountering them out of order, so to speak, right? Like maybe the second time that they meet us is technically the 4th time that we've met them. That does not make sense. I hate time shenanigans because they're so hard to explain. But my whole idea with Kaya and Arlecchino is that Conria has to exist outside of Teyvat's time so that they could enter Teyvat at any point, not only in space, but in time if they pass through a rift. Does that make sense? Time is tied to gravity. Yeah, so there's a really funny thing that happens with black holes too. Like once you pass the event horizon, time and space sort of like switch places, where instead of time being infinite and space being finite, space becomes infinite and time becomes finite. Which is an interesting idea, because what it suggests is like you could essentially move in space forever. Because space would kind of like loop back on itself, but time wouldn't. Time would be like, you'd only have like a set period of time. So like River Song of the Doctor, low key Alice gives me such Dr. River Song vibes. Like it's unreal. Like every time I hear her, I'm just like, spoilers. Like, that's all I hear in my head. If you guys have ever watched Doctor Who during the era when Dr. River Song was part of the main plot, you'll know exactly what I mean. But Alice has such River Song vibes. I swear to God. She drives me crazy. Also, space gains a direction. Yep, she does. Can these be linked to Raiden's second story quest? Yeah, I think so, because when Raiden was trapped in her quote-unquote chaotic space, like she's out in that realm of consciousness, but it's in a chaotic space, because that's what Yae Miko describes it as. Like, she experienced time very differently from what happened in Teyvat, right? Like, not that only like an hour passed, but like 500 years passed for her. But like, even in the chasm, right? In the chasm, we had everyone together, but everyone insisted that a different amount of time had passed. Someone said it was like a couple of weeks. Someone said it was a few hours. Someone said it was a couple of days, right? Like, and they were all in the same physical space together. So I think for sure that the Abyss at least does not obey the same laws of time. So I don't think it's problematic for Kaya to have been born in Conria and be into that in this timeline, because I think he could have just entered to that at this point in time, if that makes sense. It's not a paradox. Paradoxes are only paradoxes in certain time traveling models. There are instances where paradoxes don't exist in time traveling models because of the way the model works. Oh my God. The flappy ahau. I can't stand the flappy ahau. It drives me crazy. Yeah. Do you think the quote, "the victor shall burn bright while the loser must turn to ash," has to do with what they say about resurrection in the trailer? Yeah. I mean, it's basically saying that the winner gets a name forged in flames and the loser gets their name burned away. It turns to ash, right? So I think that's what they're going for. I think that's how they're interpreting it here. You think the larger issue with Kaya is how he can be a descendant of Clotar when Caribert is already dead? Okay, when we talk about descendants, we need to be very careful about saying, oh, this person is descended from this person. Kaya is not technically descended from Caribert or from Clotar. There's no evidence to suggest that. Like, let's be very, very clear on that. They're from the same family, but that's different, right? Like, Kaya could be Caribert's cousin. That's more likely, because we have to remember M. Fortis Albrecht is still part of the Albrecht family. He's related to Clotar. Kaya could be descended from him. He doesn't have to be descended from Clotar specifically, right? They're from the same bloodline. They don't have to be direct descendants. And even then, you have to remember, Caribert was a kid he had out of wedlock, which means that he had another wife, or potentially had another wife, and could have had a whole nother line of kids anyway. And Kaya could be descended from that. It doesn't have to be descended from Caribert. Called a family tree, not a family stick. Yeah. When do you think the heart of Dragonspine will turn into a dragon? December. What do you think of the lyrics of the music? Oh, dude, that was the coolest friggin' thing. I thought that was so awesome. This whole thing with the music, they did such a good job with this. They went the extra mile. Like, all of this stuff, all of the lyrics here, these are all custom for NATLAN, man. And they got the best musicians for this. I was actually like really floored by the amount that they went for this. Like how hard they went on this. This was so good. I'm just gonna let this play in the background. Felt like a national anthem. Yeah, kind of. I can totally see what you mean. Kind of like a ballad. Yeah, it definitely feels like it. It talks about names. It talks about like forging destiny through fate or through flames, challenging your fate, all of that kind of stuff. And in the end, everyone's doing it for the glory of NATLAN or to like, you know, that kind of thing. And I thought it was really cool because it's just showing that like the whole theme here is a unification of all of the different tribes and them understanding that everything that they do to keep the sacred flame burning in order to protect their nation and to ensure their way of life, which I think is quite nice as like a general unifying theme. We can't hear it. Oh, I muted it. That's why. I was gonna let it play in the background so you guys could listen to the lyrics. I'll get distracted by the lyrics. You guys watch. What exactly do you think losing will be? Because there's no way a whole tribe or ancient name gets deleted and burned every year, right? Especially if there's only one winner. Yeah, that's one thing I don't quite understand. I think there are different names, right? Like, I think I think like a tribe may have one name, but it's very possible that like individuals also have their own names that get burned. Okay, here. Is that better? It's really loud for me. I can't hear what you guys hear. I only hear what I hear, and it's two different things. How is the flame protecting them from the abyss, though? How? You know, I think the sacred flame, it has a lot in common with the celestial nail. I think that's kind of where it's at. Like, if you look at it, the celestial nail is naturally supposed to be repressing the abyssal flow. So I think the same theory happens with NATLAN, with the sacred flame. I think the sacred flame is very similar to the celestial nails and what it's doing. I mean, yeah, it's very quiet because like if I leave it loud, then like you're not gonna be able to hear me. I can turn it up a little bit, but like, you know. They said some lost multiple times, so what if their names, if they already lost it? Okay, so I don't think everyone who loses the tournament loses their name. I think there's only certain circumstances to it, right? Like, if you have 7 participants every year, just for an example, you can't have 6 deleted names. So I think it's like the loser of the final round gets their name lost or something like that. So it's only 1 name per year or something. And I also think that the names might be almost like kindling that get thrown on the fire to get burned to protect everybody. What language are the lyrics? Swahili, I think. Wonder if Dottore burning Irminsul will show up in NATLAN? I don't think so. I think it's gonna be a while. What if winning means completing the performance of sorts? Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. If Capitano has lost his ancient name, could it mean that him saying he will create new rules? Does that mean he will earn his name back through the Gnosis by taking control of the nation? I think it means that he wants to destroy the ritual in general and just establish a new order because he doesn't think the ritual is working. That's my hypothesis here. The music is... Okay, everyone says it's quiet now. Everyone says it's too loud now. Make up your minds. Is that better? Kachina has participated a lot and lost every time except this time she's a final contender. Yeah, this is kind of why I think it's like you wager a name, but you don't lose it until you get to the final round. You think it's neat that the Nation of Competition War is being released the same year as the Olympics, plus the guy breakdancing in the trailer when it was in the Olympics this year. Yeah. Does the sacred flame remain eternal by burning the ancient names? I wonder. I don't know. Do you think Capitano is from NATLAN? I'm leaning more towards him being from NATLAN right now. Either that, or I think he might be a descendant of Vanessa. It's loud, but also quiet. Shush! Why is there a theory that says Mavuika is not the real Archon like Farina? There's always one of those. It's kind of the whole thing, right? Like, every region since Liwa, people have been like, oh, well, whoever's the Archon isn't the real Archon. That's always the way it is, right? Because, like, Hoyo likes to do that thing with duality, where, like, they are the Archon, but they're not the Archon. Like with A and Makoto, oh, they're twins. Rukadevata and Nahida, oh, she's reincarnated. And Farina and Fossil oh, she's split in half, right? So, like, they're like, what's the twist with Mavuika? Why doesn't she have another half? Like, everyone else has had a twin so far, except for the original two, but they don't count because they're the original two. Are Knights of Boreas maybe Capitano origin? Yeah, that's one option. That's definitely one option. Definitely one option. Farina isn't the Archon, Nouvelette must be. Yeah, and he wasn't even the Archon. He was just the Sovereign that took over after the Archon did her thing. It is interesting, though, that in Farina's case, Farina has her own name as the human, Farina, and then Focalor is the demon version, and she said she split her divinity from her human side. So if you look at it that way, both of her names gave her two different roles and basically allowed her to split herself into two different characters within the same story, which allowed her to accomplish two different things at the same time, which I think is interesting. Hold on. Which I think is interesting. This is distracting, I'm sorry. I want to just jam out to the music, but I want to talk about something, and it's really, really hard when I'm distracted. So forgive me for, you know what? I'm going to let it play so you can keep reading the lyrics if you want to, but I can't listen to it right now. So in Before Sun and Moon, right, you've got the primordial one who split himself into four shades. I almost wonder if he split themselves, or if they split themselves into four names to have four different roles, the same way that Focalor split herself into the demon name or the divinity and the human name and the human portion, and then became two different characters in the same role. Because if the primordial one split themselves, we actually don't know the gender, I just keep assuming because of Phaenus. If they split themselves into four parts by giving themselves four different names so they could play four different characters at the same time, that also kind of plays into Simulanka with that whole thing, right? Because like Simulanka had that thing where three histories of the clans were all true at the same time, and they're just like, oh, well, that's cool, it's all true at the same time. Well, in that case, you could have the same person enacting the same thing at the same time. So there's four different like origin stories almost, or like four different things that they're doing simultaneously because they've split. I don't know how to explain where that thought process is going, but that's kind of where my head is right now. What if they just so happen to be Paimon? Like, legit, that is a possibility, right? Like, you could split your childish side out, and if you give it a name, then you were enacting this one character role. What if the four shades are four gods of time? Yep, that is kind of where I'm at with that. Okay, so that is also Simulanka vibes, because Alice, Barbeleth, and Anders' daughter actually represent the mother maiden crone of the like three fates. I know we have like this whole four things going on, but like if you look at the fates, specifically the Greek fates, their mother was Ananke, who was the weaver, the ultimate weaver, like the goddess of all of the weavers, and she was like the mother of the three fates. So like then you have four. Is that similar to the Doctor? I don't know, because the Doctor splits himself out into segments, but like I don't know if they all have different names. But I wonder if you could give them different model numbers and have it be the same concept. right? Like if you had alpha, mega, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, like if you named each of your segments that, like you're all Dottore, but like you're Dottore gamma, Dottore alpha, Dottore, you know what I mean? Calls them variants, like the omega variant. Yeah, so like that's a valid way to interpret it, right? So if he deletes his segments, then you could kind of see a NATLANian sort of thing in that with burning the names, which would mean that maybe he can't remake his omega variant anymore, right? Because he's already done that. So he has to like give it a different name, different model number, right? Omega versus Dottore. Oh god, please no. Dottore definitely knows how to cheat the system. Yeah, I mean, like, I think he knows quite a bit about how the world works. And he's just experimenting to see where the limits are. Any Bennett has the Gnosis theory thoughts? I don't know this theory. I've seen it bumming around. I don't think he has the Gnosis. Because, like, as we saw in the trailer, Capitano clearly said that he believes the Gnosis is in Mavwiga's hands. And I feel like there's no reason to doubt that it is. But here's the thing about Bennett, okay? Hold on. Here's the thing about Bennett. And actually Mondstadt in general. Mondstadt is not supposed to be representative of Germany. Mondstadt is supposed to be representative of the generic fairy tale setup or a generic fairy tale city. And a lot of fairy tales that we know, like the iconic ones, have like Germanic origins, and that's kind of part of it. But the more you look into the characters that we've met in Mondstadt, the more you realize that every single one of them is a representative of something that we have either encountered already or will encounter in the future. So a lot of people have pointed out, for example, that Capitano's sword style is not only cryo, but like the way he holds his sword and the way he wields it is very similar to Kaya. And their outfits are also a little bit similar in that they both have that cropped top and slight Matador inspirations for their outfits. And also Kaya is a representative of Conria, that's obvious. But like Lisa is also a representative of the Hexen Circle, for example, right? Because she's not only got the rose motif going on, but she's a librarian. And in Simulanka, we can see that like Anders' daughter was held in such high esteem for her ability to write stories and that kind of stuff. So seeing Lisa sort of be like the proxy for the Hexen Circle, even though she's not actually part of their coven, but like representative of them in Mondstadt is kind of fitting. If you look at Jean, I actually think she's a bit more representative of Fontaine in general because of Jeanne d'Arc. And if you look at Bennett would be representative of NATLAN, right? So every character that you go throughout all of Mondstadt has either some sort of tie to a fairy tale or some tie to some sort of greater theme or faction within the game itself. So looking at Mondstadt as a whole, the reason why it's our headquarters and the place we started out is because it's kind of like the summary or the condensed or the allegorical version of the entire game's plot, right? No Sumuru rep in Mondstadt. I mean, technically Lisa also counts for that too, because she studied there. But like even Amber is kind of odd because you'd think that she doesn't really represent anything, but she actually kind of represents Liwa in a way. You've got Albedo, who's representing the Alchemist faction from Conria. Yeah, I don't know. You can Razor Sumuru rep. Yeah, you could look at that one too. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but the point is, and I will do this eventually. I will do a deep dive into this because this is a theory I've had for a long time and I've not really been able to articulate it well. And I think after Simulanka, I have some tools to do that. So maybe I'll do that. But just like the way that Venti is all about what's the word, cataloging stories, right, and preserving history and talking about those sorts of things. I think these things are cool. I want to talk about these. I just think that Venti having his entire nation be a preservation of the history of the world is very interesting conceptually. Do I think Shambalanque might represent Tezcatlipoca since they are both related to jaguars? Not really, because jaguars are very common Aztec and Mayan symbolism. Basically, anything to do with sun or corn typically had something to do with jaguars. Like it was very, very common. So I don't necessarily think that that's like the one thing that I would look at and to connect two characters together just because of how common it actually is. We are getting more Venti before Shinesnaya. We have to at least get Venti's second story quest before Shinesnaya. Like, right? Like, we have to. Please. For the love of God. Do I think the character that running towards Mavuika as an NPC are more relevant? I don't know who you're talking about. You're gonna have to be a little bit more specific, either with a timestamp or something else, because I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to. Boreas 451. That's funny because Fahrenheit 451, but instead of fire, it's ice. Sorry. Thanks for the super. Thanks for the super. Curious about your thoughts about what known locations will be added in 5.4. Plus, the Durin plot feels like a tease of Dornman Port, but if the map goes south, Blackcliff Forge makes more sense. Yeah. Okay. So the Marjavari is an obvious one. I think definitely Dornman Port is a big one, but I kind of feel like we won't get Dornman Port until we're going to head to Shinesnaya, because I think it's going to be one of those border regions. But Blackcliff Forge sounds like a great expanding area, especially since we have like the Children of Echoes and such in NATLAN. I think it'd be a great time to like talk about blacksmithing and forging and that kind of stuff, especially if there's some need to forge a special blade. That I would really like. I do think there's a good chance that the Beta Harbor area gets deleted between now and 5.6-ish. Like, I think it'll just drop into the abyss. But as far as like upcoming areas, every time I guess at upcoming areas, I'm always wrong. So I don't really look at it. I will say on a wish list, okay, on a wish list item, I would love to see another Inazuma Island. I think that's my one thing. But yeah, as for what you're saying, I definitely think that Blackcliff Forge makes more sense than Dornman Port. I really don't think we'll get Dornman Port until Shinesnaya. Yeah, at 306 in the trailer, thank you. In the trailer, okay. 3. I see. I think that's probably an inconsequential person. I think that's a messenger. Because, like, here's the thing. It doesn't look like there's anyone in the arena, so there's nothing going on right here. So if Mavuika's here, she's probably either prepping for something, or she's, like, surveying the scene, or this is, like, after something has happened, like, after a battle has finished. I almost wonder if this is, like, a messenger bringing some sort of report of something that's going on somewhere else in the region, and they're like... Yeah, I don't... This doesn't look like a playable design. I know this is really tiny. It doesn't look like a playable design to me. We'll see. We'll see. I don't think they'll be that important. Wait, where's Child? What do you mean? It doesn't look like Chaska. There's too much clothing. I'm sorry, but Chaska has like a weird amount of clothing. Like it's like she can't quite decide if she's covered up or she wants to be more exposed. Like it's this weird middle ground, and this is too much clothing for her. Where's Ororon in the trailer? I don't know, man. I feel like we won't see him until like 5.1 at least, or even like maybe he'll pull like a Star Rail Boot Hill thing and won't show up until the finale. Mr. Combat and not in the War of Me. Well, he was like pretty messed up after the whole narwhal thing, remember? And I get the feeling he's probably going to end up doing more stuff alongside Skirk going forward, because he's supposed to be involved in Project Stuja, remember? So the Tsaritsa is looking at that with him and that kind of stuff, so. Can Deshret be Xbalanque's brother? I don't know. We don't know. I don't think we know enough about Xbalanque to actually be able to say anything. Did I read Child's birthday mail? Probably. I just don't remember it. He's recovered and itching to get some exercise. Yeah. We'll see. I don't think they're gonna put him here. I really don't. I think they're gonna align him a little bit more with Skirk, because it says that she's like, oh hey, I have an apprentice, I should actually use him. I feel like she's gonna start interfering a little bit more. Thoughts on the new enemies or Columbina similarities, Sealy's Descendant or something? Okay. I want to talk about the Wyobs, okay? Or the Wayob. I do not know how to say this word. I'm gonna butcher it a bunch of times. I'm sorry. Actually, way? Oh. Way? No. Yeah. Okay, this is plural. That's why. Okay. All right. I want to talk about this because I want to make some wild speculations based on nothing for a minute. I want to make some absolute. Okay. So I have to proceed on a couple of assumptions, which you guys may or may not agree with, but just stick with me, okay? First off, I think all of us can at least agree that this looks like a biblically accurate angel. Yes? But the other thing that this looks like, at least to me, you see this line here? Vision holders in NATLAN can communicate with the tribes Wayo and ley lines to enhance their strength through this ritual. Okay. This guy. 6 wings, all that kind of stuff. You've got the eyes. Here's the thing. Eyes in this game right now have the closest relationship to the sustainer of heavenly principles and a dragon sovereign, because Nouvelette has eyes on the palms of his hand, right? And the way I'm looking at these guys, let's pull this up. I wanna, hold on. I can't stand all the ads. I'm sorry. I can't handle it. Okay. I'm at my limit. I cannot get it out of my head how similar these things feel to the Abyss Heralds and Lectors and stuff, okay? Ad block hours. It doesn't work. I just hate it. I just hate it, okay? I just hate it. Now, I have for a very, 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 very long time suggested that Sealies are either dragons or they are dragon adjacent. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Nuvalet calls Nibelung the Heavenly Father, which is another name for the like ultimate god, right? Like Father, Son, Holy Ghost type god. And Seelies are basically angels because they sing in the Hall of Angels. They're described as being angelic. Like everything about them in their true form is very angel-ish. So having Seelies be related to Nibelung makes sense in that context. At least as like if they're dragon adjacent. So like they don't have to necessarily be dragons, but if they're made out of the same stuff or they're like an evolutionary form of dragons, like that's still kind of where my head's at. So I'm looking at these things as like an intermediary step between a Seelie and a dragon. Now, the reason I say that is because right here, if you just look at the definition here, it says what a Maya word with the basic meaning of sleeping. But it's specifically referring to a person who can transform into an animal while asleep in order to do harm, or else the resulting animal transformation itself. So in the greater Hoyoverse, especially in Honkai Impact, and I'm sorry I have to go here, but I do. I'm probably going to butcher a little bit of this. I'm so sorry. This is so complicated. So in Honkai Impact, they have these Honkai beasts, which are very similar to dragons for reasons that we don't need to get into, or else I'm going to confuse the whole thing. But these Honkai beasts are monsters when they're in their awake form, but they can only really think while they're dreaming. So the connection between the dragon, monster, beast sort of things and dreaming being kind of like their domain makes a lot of sense, especially if you think of moons being more dragon aligned, which I think they are, because again, Nuvalet has a triquetra in his kit and it's his symbol. Having him be related to the moon just makes sense. Therefore, three moon sisters being three sorts of draconic entities also makes sense. Nighttime sort of thing. Anyway, but these Honkai beasts, to my understanding, several of the really, really powerful ones were captured and used to make a sort of dream net, like a metaphorical mesh, okay? And this metaphorical mesh was then used to... Why is this in here? Why did I put that there? That's so silly. Hold on. Maybe it's in here. Welcome to my stock photo library. So that whole thing was used to create this sort of like mental cognitive net upon which all sorts of people were then, I swear I put it in here. Maybe I didn't. All sorts of people were then put into like this hive mind dream like state called Project Stigma. The whole project was called Project Stigma, and then the actual entity was called Adam Cadman. But again, all of those people were bound together by these draconic-ish entities that could only think in their dreams. So everyone was basically having like a shared dream world experience that was held together by these beasts. I can't friggin' find this thing. I swear to God, I had it in here. Did I just put it? No. Maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe I didn't put it in here. I swear I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's here somewhere. I'll find it eventually. I'm sure it's here. Yeah, I'll find it later. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So I'm not saying this is related to Honkai Impact, but what we've definitely seen is that over the course of Hoyo's games, we've seen repeating themes, right? Over and over and over again. And if we assume that the world itself is made out of elemental energy in Genshin, which it is, and then dragons are basically elemental creatures, which they are, and that ley lines are analogous to dragon veins, which is also the case, then we start to see a world that is made up entirely of dragons. Like it's a dragon dream kind of scenario that would then get hijacked by someone else, right? Kind of like how in Al Haytham's story quest, he kind of like hijacks a hive mind. There's like an overmind, but then like people can compete for dominance and sort of take over the overmind, so to speak. Why is the disc called Dane? I have a Paimon one too. It's so I can keep track of them. But this one is Dane. He's keeping track of my archive. He's the bow keeper. He's keeping all of my little pieces together. So anyway, I'm looking at these things. I'm looking at these like entities in a nation of dragons where we've got symbolism that's very similar to stuff that we've seen all over Nouvellette specifically. We've got the abyss sort of associations here with like the shapes and designs being very reminiscent of abyss lectors and heralds. And they're named after things that are like transformed through sleep, transformed through dreams, like dream talking and that kind of stuff. So like, I don't quite know how to combine everything in a way that's like somewhat coherent, like a coherent theory, because that's what actually sitting down and writing a script is all about. I could actually sit down and try to figure out how all these pieces go together in a way that makes sense in an easily digestible format. But you kind of see where my head is at with this, right? So Columbina representing any of this kind of stuff still makes sense to me, because like if she's a Seelie, which I think it's very possible, I don't see why it wouldn't be. But even if she is, it just means that she's more on the draconic side of things, right? And that maybe in her sleep she can do something like this. But it does make me think that these guys might even be reminiscent of the names, right? Like the embodiment of the role or the character that each obsidian totem might represent, right? And maybe the fact that they're like a tribal leader or whatever, maybe like they're the ones who sort of lend out their name or govern over it or keep it or anything like that. So Columbina seems to be related to sleep and dreams, so maybe she's always looks like she's sleepwalking. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Or maybe she's in the opposite, like where she dreams she can turn into a person, right? So she always has her eyes closed because she's actually dreaming, but it looks like she's awake because she's kind of sleepwalking kind of thing. The D disc should be Deshret. No, that's for my archival stuff. Their face looks like an owl. Does it? I guess I kind of see it. Very off topic, but do you think at some point the HSR train will stop on the same planet that Tavad is on, but on the Dark Sea? It could allow for some crossover without a full crossover. I don't think so. I think if anything, we'll just get another world that's kind of similar, but not actually to that. Like, I don't think they're actually going to go that way. But anyway, this is kind of my point with this whole thing, because we've got the Night Soul blessing, which is also connected to these Wayo and the Saurians and that kind of stuff, right? So we're still in this process of connecting dragons to nighttime, and nighttime seems to be connected to abyssal stuff. So dragons being more abyssal in nature and like governing over that, and then finding a way to coexist with humans that need to live in the light and non-abyssal space is very thematically on point. So I like that aspect of it. We'll see. Maybe every dragon comes from NATLAN, kind of like the human origin coming from Africa, since in theory there should be 6 Wayo if we go by the number of tribes. Yeah, but there might be 7, right? Because like there might be 7 tribes if the Nightwind tribe is a thing. Notice that Capitano has some scales on his arms and cloak. Yeah, we did. We talked about it. Boreas 451, thanks again for the super. I got the vibe that Columbina would be a harbinger tied to Iridescence Tour somehow, like have her singing lullabies of Barber or something. That would be one hell of a way to introduce a harbinger, just have a concert. I don't know, I think we'll get more horror elements with her. I think we're gonna meet her towards the end of NATLAN, or just in Snezhnaya. She's the first one we meet. I just feel like they're saving her to be really scary. I think the thing about Capitano is that even if he's the strongest harbinger, it doesn't mean that he's the scariest harbinger, because we know from other characters that he has like a set of ethics and morals that he kind of lives by and operates by. So he's very principled, but like if you look at what they say about Columbina, she has no such misgivings. And even if she ends up being weaker than Capitano because she's ranked lower, if she has no restraint, then that makes her a lot scarier, at least to me, of an enemy to fight. I mean, like not an enemy to fight, but like an enemy to an antagonist. I think that makes her a much scarier antagonist. I think Capitano would make a very compelling antagonist. Don't get me wrong. I think that'll definitely be a good thing. But what about Vanessa's tribe? Shouldn't they be the 7th tribe? They might be. They might be like a missing tribe, or they might be part of a missing tribe, or maybe there were more tribes than just the 6 or 7. Who knows? We don't really know. Like we have some indication that there's always been like 6 or 7 tribes. If only going back through sets like the Unfinished Reverie and the Talking Stick, we can see mentions of that kind of stuff. It's just hard to say what the deal is with Vanessa's tribe. What if Vanessa's was a pyro tribe? Yeah, I mean, it could be. Could be. It could be that her tribe was part of the same tribe that Mavwika's was, or is, or just based on the whole bird saurian thing. Snezhnaya gonna low-key be a genre shift to horror like Sumeru? I mean, I don't think it's necessarily gonna be horror, but like there is something kind of terrifying about being in a frigid area if it's dark and you get trapped in something, because things can go very wrong very quickly. Right? Vanessa became the Falcon of the West, so Bird Saurian would check out, perhaps. Yeah, see that. Speaking of Bird Saurian, do you notice Chaska's vision element changed? I don't think it ever changed. I think the color was just weird in the first one, because we never saw the actual like symbol. So we're skipping 5.2. Is there like no 5.2? Like it's just not going to contain an Archon quest? Yeah, it's not going to contain an Arc. Okay, I said this earlier already. I really think 5.2 is going to be Albedo special, Durin, Dragon Spine kind of thing. The snowflake was in there? I don't think it was. I really don't. I really don't think the snowflake was in there. Like, I mean, I'll look. I don't know, man. I don't see it. I think it's the wrong color. I don't see a snowflake. You know? I just don't see a snowflake. Screenshot and zoom. It's not gonna help much, but like we can. I do want to talk about this in a second. The one thing I prepped ahead of time. Jesus. Yeah, you really think there's anything you can see there? That, like, there's nothing there. Like, there's nothing there that you can see. Like, yes, it might be a different color, but this just kind of feels like the whole thing with Yunjin, where it didn't look like she had a geovision in her little, like, animated preview before she came out. You can kind of see the wing. Yeah, I just think the color is a little bit off. That's all. I don't necessarily think she was ever meant to necessarily be cryo. And if you think about it, we have a really good selection of all of the elements. We've got like one of every, well, we've got two of every element. We've got one of every element except Geo, which we have two. So it would make more sense if she's Animo. Yeah, the colors are super bright in the trailer. Yeah, I think the trailer also has like, I don't want to say some bloom, but it feels like it has bloom, where bloom kind of like blows out the colors a little bit. And I think that's part of it. I think the cryo and Animo can also look really similar depending on what device you're looking on too, depending on how your screen's calibrated, your color calibration works out. Because they are very similar color-wise. So I'm not surprised. But she's definitely Animo now. I think that's the part that matters, honestly. There's some cool info hidden in the songs, like in the end you rekindled the ashes because of a dream. Yeah. We are so going hard into the dream territory. I am super excited. You guys have no idea. I am so excited about all the dream stuff. But I really think they're going to play on the idea of like, there's a theory, and I forget what it's called. There's a theory in dream analysis where if you dream of somebody, you're not actually dreaming of that person. You're dreaming about what that person represents in your life. And that also really plays into the idea of like names equaling role that you give an actor on a stage or in a book or whatever like that. So I wonder if they're going to go that route. I think that would be real cool. There's one thing I wanted to grab. I wanted to talk about. I don't know where it is in the trailer. What else is new? I don't know where anything is. Who knows where anything is? Certainly not me. There it is. All right, this thing. First off, this is so Enkanomiya coded. The thing I think is really cool about this down here is this is not only so much like the Dainichi Mikoshi or the Helios in Enkanomiya, but like it's also in a chasm-like area, right? Where we had that same kind of architecture, although this architecture does not look like that architecture, which I think is really cool. But I pulled this into Photoshop just to increase the contrast so you can see. And I think... I know it. This is what it looks like, and then I just darken the colors. Okay, I just darken the colors. Oh, Senora Mains. Yeah, we'll talk about them in a second. The way I see this, and I could be totally off base. I'm wondering if this looks like the pyro symbol to me. That could move around a little bit. And then I'm wondering if each of these symbols around the edges, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I wonder if these are each of the 6 Saurian symbols, which would be very interesting if this is down here. Because what does that make this whole tower then, in that case? Like, is this part of the Pyro Sovereign? Is that what this is? Because that would be crazy. Looks like the nation flag symbol. Yeah. That's kind of what I mean. Because like this is the symbol of NATLAN as a nation, which is the 8-pointed star, right? Which is awesome. It's also a reference to like their solar calendar symbols and stuff like that. Hold on. I don't know why I called it the solar calendar. I want the actual like, okay. This one has like a nice differentiator between the thing. You can see, but you can see, right? Like you can see the symbols that they use for this when we look at the Mayan calendar. That's likely where something like this is coming, like where the symbolism is coming from. Doesn't that look like what Mavuika was talking to in the other trailer? Yeah, that's why I was saying it. That's why I was saying that. Because, like, You see these symbols here? Like, yes, it's missing the middle bit, but they're all flames and they're in that same orientation. Whoops. So then if we come down here and look at it this way, like, it's not a stretch, right? Oh, right, the Saurian teaser. I totally forgot about that. Hold on. Let me fix something real quick. There we go. I forgot about the Saurian teaser. You're right. Hold on. That happened so long ago that I'm like, where the frick? There it is. All right. So similar thing with these. Fire in the middle. You're so right. Fire in the middle, and then you've got the six. Also, again, triquetra time. There's no pyro. There's not even pyro traveler. There's the pyro archon. And that's it, which is still so weird to me. So weird to me that that's what's here. Did the Pyro Dragon Sovereign divide himself into 6 parts? Could that be a possibility? Making the tribe unite with each other makes it easy for the dragon to be born again? That was the theory-ish that I pitched in the last video predictions that I made. Yes. That's kind of where I'm thinking this is going. 6 versus 8, other 2 where? Good question. I don't know why there would need to be 2, though. Why would there need to be 2 for 8? There's only 7 elements. They also confirmed in the live stream that Saurians use the pyro with their innate element for their abilities. Yeah. It's interesting, though, because, like, one thing that they said, I don't know where this is in the trailer, or in the live stream, but when they were talking about the, what do you call them? The Hydro tribe? The Children of the Springs, that one. They referred to their dominion being around anything that was liquid. So then I was thinking, well, maybe this isn't actually about elements at all. Maybe this is about states of matter instead. I don't think there are 6 states of matter. Maybe there are on some sort of technicality, or maybe there's some overlap. But it was interesting to me that they're just like, oh yeah, lava is liquid and therefore they can go through it. I'm just like, is it? Is it though? Is lava a liquid? Actually, is lava a liquid? Lava is a liquid. Okay. It counts. I kind of thought it might be a plasma, but I guess not. That's fine. Interesting. Past tense, thanks for the super. You mentioned Senora. We do have to talk about her. Okay. So, yeah. We're talking about a nation of resurrection, right? They've alluded to this a couple of times where they're like, yeah, in NATLAN and only in NATLAN can someone be revived or restored based on your name or whatever. A lot of people have been suggesting for a long time that Senora will be revived in NATLAN. I'm 50-50 on the idea, honestly. I'm not sure that that's the route they're gonna go. I really don't. I really love... This is so cool here. I want to pause here because I want to come back to this. I don't know if that's the way they'll go. I really don't. I think it's important for the Harbingers to have all of their players, but the thing is that would mean that they'd also have to either replace Wanderer or have him forcibly come back. I don't know how they'll manage that. So, like, in that sense, I don't understand why they would bring back Senora, like, why the Fatui would be interested in bringing back Senora, because they're already missing at least one other character. Which means, again, they either have to bring him back, and he's been deleted, so they don't think they even know he existed, or they're going to have to recruit someone else to replace his spot. So I'm not quite sure how that plays in. I've seen a couple of interesting, compelling arguments for Senora to be based off of an Aztec goddess. But I don't really think it's not my theory, so I'm not really going to go into it much. I'm sure Senora Mains is more than happy to cover that. I think though, if she is ever going to come back, this is the time to do it. But again, if she does come back, I don't think it'll be as Senora. I think it'll be as Rosalind. Or Rosaline, I guess, if you want to say it that way. Why would the plot need Senora? That's the same as we met our twin and forgot it all. What was the meaning of Senora's death? I think it's better to say, like, what's the meaning behind Wanderer's deletion, as opposed to what's the meaning behind Senora's death, right? Like, if you compare those two, like, I don't think it has anything to do with we met our twin and now we can't remember anything. I don't think that's quite the point. Because even if you don't remember something, that doesn't mean it didn't happen, and it doesn't mean it didn't leave a lasting impression on you. It just means that you don't remember the exact circumstances of something, right? So Wanderer deleted himself, and that did have some impact on the plot, and it does matter. But, like, for all intents and purposes, his previous selves are dead, right? So for Senora to die, I still think that's relevant, even if she comes back, because it's not that she didn't die still. Like, Senora can still be dead. The reason why I say it's going to be Rosaline that would come back if she gets revived is because Senora should stay dead. But if you revive Rosaline, the one she was before she was Senora, that's different, right? It's similar to Wanderer hitting a reset button. It's changing her role in the story because she's going by a different name. She's playing a different character now, right? Like, her responsibilities are different. I don't necessarily... Now, I don't say any of that to say, like, I think Senora should be revived. She should come back because she shouldn't have died. Like, I don't think any of that is even remotely relevant. Like, I'm sure if they bring her back, it's not going to just be like, we're going to bring her back because she's popular and hot and everyone's going to pull for her. I really think that when they killed her, they had a plan for why she died and if they would bring her back and why they would. So I don't have a lot of opinions or feelings on whether or not she should. So I wouldn't say she's just a plot device. I do think she matters to the grander scheme of things. I just don't necessarily think that we need to boil it down to whether or not she should have died or whether she should stay dead, because, like, there's meaning to be gleaned from whatever happens, right? Like, we can assume things multiple ways, but I honestly think it's more likely that it won't be Senora, but because we talked about Capitano being a ghost earlier, right? Like, talked about him potentially being a ghost that escaped the night realm after losing his name. I really think that if anyone gets revived, it's either him, Xbalanque, or the Pyro Sovereign. I would bet on those three before I would bet on Senora, honestly. Where does Xbalanque fit into all of this? I don't know. They didn't mention anything about him, and I don't know that we'll learn anything about him for a long time. And in fact, he could just be something to do with a world quest and not to do with the Archon quest at all. But he did introduce New Valette, so I assume that he has some kind of important role that they're just keeping secret for right now, because it's a little bit more of an Easter egg. Like, what percentage of actual players do you think go on Twitter and read the introduction for the characters and then remember who said them? And think about that. Like, a very, very, very small percentage. So it's almost like one of those Easter eggs that they hide there, being like, oh yeah, we're hinting for the people who are paying attention, but for everybody else, this is going to be a surprise, you know? It's very small. It's very small. It's very small. I think that's kind of the point. Or Durin will be revived. Durin is going to be revived, but like not. I don't think it'll be about NATLAN. I think it'll be something else. 50% I'm optimistic. Oh god, no. That would mean that the game is like so much smaller than you think it is. Weren't dragon sovereigns also vulnerable towards abyssal corruption? How will he defeat the abyss? I don't know who you mean by he. I mean, NATLAN is going to be destroyed in less than a year. They are uniting the tribes to revive their dragon sovereign. Could be, could be. Why do you think the Traveler doesn't let anyone call them by their name? Because I think names have power. That's kind of the point. Different names, different roles, things kind of reminds you of Dan Heng. Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad way to think about it. So I was looking at these, right? I don't have a whole lot to say about them, but like I would like to note here that we've got an Obsidian Codex, which is the name of this artifact set, which has a lot of similarities in vibes and design motifs to everything that we've seen in the Night City or the Night Kingdom underneath NATLAN, right? Which I think is quite interesting. But they're also animo colored. Also interesting. But the other place that we see Obsidian mentioned more than just like one little tiny offhanded thing is in the desert with King Deshret. But the reason I point that out with him specifically is because half of him is based off of Osiris, who was the Lord of the Dead. So like thinking of the Night Realm or the Underrealm or this underworld area as being like an underground almost purgatory area for souls to go after someone dies is very fitting thematically. I'm not like directly connecting it to any one person, but the idea that Obsidian specifically is used for this is interesting, especially because the Obsidian mirrors were very common in Mesoamerica as like a motif, right? Like it was used as a method of divination, that kind of stuff. Mirrors were viewed as metaphors for sacred caves and as conduits for supernatural forces. So like having these things be based off of obsidian is like thematically on point. Mirrors were associated with fire in Mesoamerica, and both butterflies, flowers were associated with fire in central Mexico. That's a very big Senora reference there, with butterflies representing flames. Again, the Olmecs of the pre-classic period fashioned concave mirrors that were capable of lighting fires, also relevant. But they're also associated with water. Love that too. Love the consistency. Beautiful. Anyway, point being... Point being, obsidian is actually very fragile. Yes, it is. It's basically glass. It is basically glass. Not even like really good tempered glass either. Like pretty brittle glass. Yeah, I wish I could get a better shot of that light. Oh wait, this thing. I do want to talk about this thing. I gotta pause here. Fiji, thank you for the super. I'm late to the party, but is it a coincidence that the light symbols on Dendroiob look like the symbols on the Sustainer's cubes and on Ororon's hands? No, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's on purpose. I think that, again, I think eyes are an interesting symbol of... I have to do something I don't want to do. I'm sorry. this is the best example that's going to come to mind to explain why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking, okay? So I'm not trying to connect this to Star Rail. I'm trying to point out a thematic thing here, okay? Like a thematic repeating pattern that Hoyoverse is doing. That's all I'm doing here. I'm not trying to like directly connect this to Penacony, just to be clear. So this is the holographic map of Penacony, which is a dream world, right? So this is the version that we see in reality, and you'll see there's a big eye and it's open, and at the center of it is a bunch of constellations, and then the hotel of Penacony itself, which is a Anderson disk, basically a flat world, so to speak. It's a series of rings. But then when you enter the dream version of Penacony, take a look at this. The eye is closed. And now you've got all of these little disconnected dream bubble spaces, right? So if we go this, closed, dreaming, open, awake, closed, dreaming, open, awake, closed, dreaming, open, awake, closed. So do you see where I'm going with this? When we see the eyes and they're open, in Genshin especially, to me that's being like, this is reality, this is like we're observing something, we're looking at the world. When you observe something, it comes into existence, right? When you close your eyes, it's different, it's chaotic, time ceases to exist, things go a little wonky, right? Like in Penacony, for example, when you're in the dream world, that's where everything gets funky. Time is funky, space is funky, gravity is funky, you've got dream whales and memory bubbles, and you can enter people's dreams, and there's nested dreams within dreams within dreams within dreams, right? But then in the waking world, everything's pretty sensible. It's a planet. It's well, I say planet. It's an Anderson disk. Alderson disk. I'm sorry. Having a dyslexic moment. Leave me alone. So like in this case, the Hotel of Penacony is like the central star here, and then you've got the habitable zone on the top of the disk, and it's a flat world, right? And people have talked a lot about to that being flat. So like I'm looking at this from like a world structure perspective, being like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So when I'm thinking about Genshin and I'm looking at the Wyobes and the eye motifs and where they appear and who they appear on, that's kind of what I'm thinking about, right? Like when the eye is open, it's almost like you're looking at reality and it's coming into existence. But then if your eye is closed and you're dreaming, like things are more flexible, they're more malleable, and they're more chaotic. So when I think of the abyss, for example, that's when I think of dreaming. I think of moons, I think of night times, I think of chaos, I think of like memories that are completely disordered because you can't control them because it's all subconscious, right? And as soon as you wake up, everything snaps into place. Time starts to move linearly. There's light outside, gravity works correctly, like everything obeys the laws of physics, right? It's orders versus chaos, but like in your brain. If that makes sense. So Shabalanka is asleep? I have no idea. I don't know the answers to these questions. Like everything I'm saying is just theorizing. So quantum physics, in that we need an observer to know where the particles are. HI3 had a lot of quantum theory use. Yeah, I mean, if that helps you think about it that way, yeah. I was kind of thinking about it. I'm gonna do a thing again. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do a thing again. Wait, I wanted to go to the Genshin wiki. Why did I do that? I wanted to go to the wiki. This will work. We'll go here. I wanted to go. Wait, I wanted to look at the. I can never remember how to spell mausoleum, so I go in this way. Don't judge me. I know I'm going to Destret again. Leave me alone. There's a reason, though. The reason why I wanted to look at this specifically is because it's the best example of how I'm viewing this. Destret's whole thing is about being the symbol of an eye, right? So you've got an eye here, and then you've got a pyramid cone up top, and you've got a pyramid cone at the bottom, right? And this is pretty similar to an actual light cone, what he's looking at. So the observer is here. This is a moment in time that you are observing. And the observer is represented by the eye, which in this case here is represented by Deshret's eye, right? So this whole thing is about showing how you're perceiving a moment in time, which is why I've been likening the whole eye motif in general to like reality and like things being ordered and proper. So when we see the primordial one, or we see the heavenly principles, or we see even Irminsul, like we see the eye motifs and that kind of stuff. So when we actually, even if we look at Nouvelette, if we look at Nouvelette, there's a couple of interesting things that go on here too, because not only does he have the Triquetra stuff going on, but he does have the eye motifs going on. Like, I know these are supposed to be DNA strands, but like he has the eye motifs. This exact symbol is on the palms of his hands. Even if you assume he's more abyssal aligned in the sense of like he's supposed to be dragon, dreaming, nighttime kind of thing, he is Numa aligned in game, which means that he's a dragon that's becoming more observer oriented, which is part of why I think the eyes are on his hand and why he's Numa aligned and not Usia aligned, even though the latter would make a little bit more sense. Because the Numa is representing the light, being able to see, because you can't see in the dark. Anyway, that's a long, yeah. That's one of the reasons why I'm looking at the way-ups, like, what's going on? No, I gotta do this before I completely forget. I wanted to point this out. Wanted to point this out, because here we go. Let's do the thing where we click a button and a video plays. Very slowly. And I'm waiting. There we go. Okay. So I'm not actually going to say anything about this. I just kind of want to like sit here and look at it for a minute. This is, if you don't know, this is Fischl's Island from the Golden Apple Archipelago event in 2.8. These things here, the reason why I thought of this while we were talking about the whole eye thing is because when you look through these things, you'll notice it's called the gaze of the deep. Okay? It is called the gaze of the deep because when you look at it, did I actually like look through this one? Or did I just do a scenic shot? I think I just did a scenic shot. Okay, hold on. Let me grab a different clip. Probably the next clip. Or not. Maybe I'll just run away because that's, oh, this will work. Okay, so here's a gaze of the deep. But you look through it, and now you're looking at it through a symbol that also kind of, you can't really see it on this side, on this corner. But again, resembles an eye with the lens in the middle. And the whole point here was to line up these pieces through the certain focal lengths and everything in order to sort of make reality stick. So these floating elements here, right? Once you line them up correctly using this eye, why am I running around in... I have the most chaotic exploration methods. Can I just run up the stairs, please? Past me, please just run up the stairs. Okay, now these stairs are actually traversable because it locked them into place through observation. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring that up. And why this reminded me of this. Now these actually aren't, oops, these aren't wings here. These are actually horns, if you look at them. Like, they actually look like Ajdaha's horns, in my opinion. Come on, there we go. Yeah, you can kind of see them here. But I still find them fascinating in the context of just like symbolism and stuff, especially since we have abyssal language floating around this. This is Enochian. This is what, I'm pretty sure this is Enochian. This is what the abysslings are speaking. Or is it just the abyssal language? I forget. Goddess of flowers, horns. Yeah, well, I mean, it is her color. You know? We got all the things. I don't know what this guy... This has got to be from someone's story quest. Nilu's headdress, yeah. That's also similar to Penacony when you look at the stairs from a certain perspective. Is it? Is it? Was there a perspective thing in Penacony? I thought there was just like the walking on the walls thing with the switching of gravity. I can't remember the other one. I mean, I'm not doubting you. Penacony was a lot. Penacony was the one before Firefly's base. I don't remember. Oh, the dream ticker puzzles. Oh, and the owl. Oh God, the owls. Yeah. Okay, you're right. That. Yep. I'm just dumb. It's fine. I didn't even. Gotcha. Yep. It's slightly different, if only because the official stuff is a permanent one. Once you lock the thing into place, it's stuck there. Like you can't undo it. Whereas in Penacony, it's just like you shift perspective, and then you can walk across it, and then you shift like it doesn't actually change things. You know what I mean? But yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I got it. Do I think Mavika's current version will be playable? Referencing your playable or not video, her hair is a bit too crazy. Yeah, she'll be playable. Zero doubt. Will she be the Archon as playable? That's the real question. I also think this is interesting here because it looks like there's some sort of disaster going. I find it fascinating. There's a Dendrosaurian here, which seems to be perhaps connected to this strange abyssal mirror, but he's entirely made out of abyssal stuff too. And I don't know what to make of that. It's like a clone. It's like an abyss clone. Aren't those Conrian letters? It's not Conrian script. It's it's not Conrian script. There's a lot of different scripts in this game. I forget which one that one is. Okay, this is just a Latin-based one. It's not the Enochian one. I lied. Okay, this is just the Latin-based one. This is like the base to that script. It's used by the Abyss Order, Conria, that kind of stuff, yeah. 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 It's just an older script. Brownie, thanks! Hello from Maine to Brazil. That's a long ways to go. If they can be contaminated by the abyss, this explains why Knight hunts them. Yeah. Well, like we said, we know that these Saurians are not compatible with, like, certain things anymore. Like, they've evolved. They've changed. So I think it's reasonable to assume that they are more susceptible than normal dragons, even. Well, not normal dragons, but, like, elemental dragons. Janssen looks so cool. Landon Yoder, thanks for the super. My sister says you sound like Anne Hathaway. Wow. Yesterday someone said I sounded like Venti. Does Venti sound like Anne Hathaway? That's kind of funny. Kenichi's story on X says that he would do anything if he takes on a commission. You mean on Twitter? I'm not calling it that. Yeah, I mean, that is basically how they describe him. But it also says it also says that he's fighting Writhing, raging aberrants returning to the Night Kingdom from whence they came. So I really think souls of the dead. Maybe that's a soul of a dead Saurian coming back, being reflected through a mirror of sorts. That'd be kind of fun. That'd be kind of fun. Is Janssen confirmed Electro? Did you not just see her? Did you not just see her do crazy Electro stuff? Look at her, watch her. Lightning! She's 100% Electro. Like, there's no, look at her. There she goes. Yeah, she's Electro. Yeah. There's no doubt. She's 100% Electro. I'm not getting around that. But yeah, I think there's a good chance that Kanich's Asarian hunter is hunting some sort of mutated or corrupted Saurians, as well as just things that come out of the Night Kingdom. This live stream shows the statue of 7 or NATLAN. It shows like half of the statue, but not all of it. What do you think about the cryo sword of Capitano? Why is there an eternity symbol on it? There's not. It's a knot. It's a 4-sided knot. You're very disappointed that Janssen is Electro. She must have originally been written as Pyro, but someone changed her. I mean, yeah, it could be. I think it's hard to say. She was literally Pyro. You can't just say that someone is Pyro because of a preview of a trailer that they had 4 years ago. I think that's a little silly. Starting from Sino, it all went whack. Yeah, I mean, like, everything's subject to change, right? Like, they have plenty of time. Can I just say... Sorry, I got distracted. I have a reason for this, okay? I'm not doing this for no reason. Where'd it go? Do you guys see the same thing I see here with the necklaces? Do you guys see that? This? With the 1, 2, 3 and the diamond and the thing? I mean... right? I mean, obviously they have simplified versions of it, but like it's the same thing. The collar is the same thing. This is actually a better view of it, actually. You see it, right? Like, they even have the tattoos in the place where he has the thing over his shoulders. It's the same symbol. That's so funny. I know it's really more like an issue of like repeating symbols that they use over and over again throughout lots of different regions and characters, not because it matters to like one specific thing, but because it like matters in the overall aspect of the game, but like it's still funny. They are Kaveh fanboys. That would be so funny. It's not much. I feel like both nations must have influenced each other. Yeah, well, I mean, they're gonna border each other, right? Like, because NATLAN should be across the desert. So, like, obviously there should be some cross-cultural sharing and stuff. Clearly, Deshret went from Sumeru as king to NATLAN, where he led a tribe to Conry to be King Ermin. To be fair, in all fairness, though, it's worth pointing out that Deshret is not native to Sumeru. He conquered Sumeru at some point. So there was a time when Sumeru did not have him around. And there was like whole civilizations there without him. So It's worth pointing out. When Mavwika transforms with fire hair, does she look similar to the Sustainer? I think it's just the physics. I don't know that I think she looks too similar. I think it's just the physics of the hair. Oh, I am not suggesting that Destrid was in or from NATLAN at all. I'm just saying that, like, it's possible that whatever founded NATLAN came from the same place Destrid did. That's all. What about the pattern on her hair when we get a shot from her from behind? What, the triangles? Why are the triangles relevant? Like, having unique hair shines is not unusual in this game at all. Like, just take a look at Layla, for example. Layla's hair shines are primo stars. Like, it's not unusual to have some odd shaped hair shine effects in this game. So I don't necessarily know that that's got any deeper meaning in the grand scheme of things. Someone said it kind of looked like a closed eye. I mean, it's the same shape. Yeah. Destrid is undercover as Mavwika. Yeah, Destrid was actually a woman, just like Zhongli. In case anyone ever wonders. It's all women. All of them are women. They're secretly women. I'm just kidding. That would be funny, though. I feel like there should be more than 4 root cycles for it to make sense with what we know about the world. So, guys, please, I'm kidding. I am not speculating on the veracity of those statements. I don't want to. Okay, so the thing about the root cycles is I love this. I love this little guy. I'm so excited to have a little friend. I'm so excited. I want a little dragon buddy. Oh, I will point out something, though. I just noticed. In a second. The thing about the 4 root cycles is that I don't think they necessarily represent any one region. Okay? Like, I know that we've got 7 regions, and so we should have 7 cycles or whatever. I don't think that's quite it. I think there are eras, so to speak, where you're basically like segmenting out different parts of your journey's experience, which isn't exactly defined by the borders of a nation. And I think when you look at like a 4 root cycle, aren't there 4 parts to a story? Yeah, well, there's 5. Yeah. I mean, you can kind of put the denouement in as 1 if you really want to. But if we go with stories, this is more how I think about it, as opposed to linking them by region. When are we going to get Durin? Didn't they reveal at the end of Simulanka that because we gave him our blessing, he is able to travel beyond the pages of Simulanka? Did you go to the Sumeru Academia? Because he's literally inside of Wanderer's hat. Or inside of Wanderer's head. I can't actually tell, but he's there. He's there. Nahida knows he's there. So go open your game, go to the Sumeru Academia, by the fountain in the Academia. Wanderer and Nahida are like right there. Go talk to them. Durin is also there. It's interesting though, because as far as Simulanka goes, if you go talk to Nilu at the Zubair Theater, you'll find out that all of the origami animals in Tevat become real animals. And then in Fontaine, you're going to see that the little Lego men become inanimate objects. And then Durin becomes like a thought, like a ghost. You can't see him, but you can hear him. And I think he's hiding under Wanderer's hat, but that's just me. So I think that's very interesting as far as like crossing over and like what kind of form you take in reality. But I want a marketable plushie of Mini Durin. We might just have to be content with getting the Saurians instead. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to point something out. You see these in the background? These pillars that are like ghostly. There is a technology, I don't know what else to call it, in both Enkanomiya and the Sumeru Desert where having a sort of light source or something kind of similar nearby will turn invisible blue walls and structures into physical gold walls and structures, which I think is very interesting in the context of like sleeping and awake kind of stuff. And that's kind of what this reminds me of in the background. As far as I know, it's only in those two areas. I could be not remembering another place where this shows up. These are like the only two places I actually remember it. Inanimate objects close to a place where the owner likes to create toys. I thought Durin would be a pet or a teapot companion. I'm absolutely devastated. Yeah, I know, but we get little buddy, so I'm kind of okay with that. But the other thing we get, it's easier for me to find it in here. The other thing that we get is, where'd he go? Oh my god. What the hell? Is it not in here? Where's the little buddy? Oh, there he is. I see him. See him? Do you see him? Do you see him? Do you see him? It's not Durin, but it's a little dragon dude and a little egg. And I don't know if he's a furnishing or a gadget, but it's so it's little cute. It's almost enough for me to forgive them for not giving us actual Durin. But also keep in mind that if he's a preview for what's going to happen with Big Durin, it's very possible that when we revive Big Durin, right? Maybe then we'll shrink him down to Saurian size and then get him as a gadget, and then he's not missable. That's a possible. That's my cope, okay? That is my cope. I am coping for that. Still salty we didn't get a single Oceanid from Fontaine. Yeah, because we had one from the Wishful Drops event, like back in, what was it, 1.3? Giving us Durin? Yeah. Or he will fuse with Mini Durin or something like that. Or I mean, like he'll get like a different form, or it's something. Something will happen in that respect. I'm coping hard that it will end up that he gets to be like a little dragon companion gadget thing that can fly around with me, because that's adorable and I want one. 99% a gadget pet like the little itty bitty octo baby. Yeah. That's what I want though. I want a little cute little dragon you can follow me around. I just love the little dragons and they follow me around. You have crack? Share the crack. Crack is meant to be shared. Thank you very much. Also, I want Klee and Kachina to be friends, because I feel like the combination of those two with their bombs and the little drill is gonna be hilarious to watch. So I want an event where those two interact. That's what I have decided. Speaking of Enka, there was a scene where Mavuika was standing in front of the fake sun. Yeah, I know, I showed that. We've talked about that already. We even went in here and changed the contrast so you can see that there's actually symbols in here. You can't see them very clearly, but they're there. Does Capitano looks like he has a different model? He does look a little different. He looks bigger than Alhaitham, and I think Alhaitham is currently the biggest playable male model. So I think that's a plus. He's still pretty small in the grand scheme of like build types, but like as far as Genshin goes, and playables in Genshin goes, I should say, because there are much larger male models in the NPC category in this game. But as far as playables go, he does look bigger. Wriothesley. Oh, right. Wriothesley is bigger than Alhaitham. You're right. He looks about Wriothesley's size, now that I think about it. Which, you know what? I'll take that. I don't know if Wriothesley is more built, but he's definitely more curvaceous. Like, he's definitely got a much larger butt. Alhaitham's pretty flat. Also, more dragon bones. I'm so excited. There better be a couple of really cool dragon skeletons. I hope this is like part of the dragon sovereign or something. That'd be so cool. That'd be so cool. Will the sustainer appear in NATLAN? I don't know. I feel like they're gonna save the sustainer and the heavenly principles and everything else for like a really big event. Like further down the road, like a huge turning point kind of thing. And I think NATLAN is kind of like building up to that, but I don't necessarily think it's like the marker of us being at that point yet. But we shall see. We shall see. But I will say, in my opinion, what are the chances that Capitano will be playable storyline and character design wise? He'll be playable for sure. Here's the thing though. So far, when it comes to Harbingers, playability is tied to whether or not they have a vision on their person. However, notice that as Scaramouche, there was no vision, but as Wanderer, there was. So, like, looking at Capitano, I think he has all of the hallmarks of being playable, but I do think that if he is playable, he will undergo a sort of design transformation akin to Wanderer. Maybe not quite so extreme, but as much as it will make a lot of people sad for me to say this, I do think that they will reveal his face. And they may change some aspects of his clothing to a degree. So that's I don't think he'll have as extreme of a transformation as Wanderer. Because I think there's a reason why Wanderer is the way he is, and it's really long and difficult to explain. Canonless, thank you for this super. No matter what they say, you sound like Yanfei has your voice in my head canon. I don't even remember what she's supposed to sound like. I like it too. Thank you. Please don't tell the voice actor. I feel bad. I feel bad. Because I actually really like Yanfei's voice. Please explain more Wanderer lore. How do I? Okay. So this is the best, most simplified way I can explain this. So you know how Wanderer has never had a name, right? Like he's only ever had names that represent different roles that he's played, right? I guess Kunikazushi is like the closest thing he's ever had to a real name. And even then, it kind of just means nation destroyer, so it's still a role. It's not really like a name. But the thing is he's made by an Archon, right? And if you've read The Little Witch and the Undying Flame, you might have read that the Archons are what you call planets in certain circumstances. And I gotta pause because I'm probably gonna have to bring up. I have to bring up a visual here. So he's made by a planet. Ugh. Hang on. Here we go. All right, so forever ago, when we were still thinking of the Earth as being like the center of our galaxy, we basically had planets that would circle around the Earth, right? This is the Aristotle model. And these were called wandering planets. So if you think about him being the child of an archon, and archons are supposed to be representative of planets, at least as far as the Little Witch and the Undying Flame book goes, then him being called wanderer in the end is kind of reminiscent of his role of being a descendant of an archon. He is a wanderer or a wandering planet. And he's also an allegory to the traveler, being a traveler and a wanderer, which are very similar things. But if we have a wandering planet, then we have a traveling star, which are both similar astrological concept. Yeah, okay. So wandering stars or aster planetes. These things. So I'm pretty sure that's why they ended up calling him Wanderer in the end, is because of like how he was supposed to represent that. But yeah, this is like an Aristotle thing. This isn't like a flat earth or bizarre conspiracy theory. This is like a philosophical attempt at explaining the structure of the galaxy from ages ago. Here's a geocentric model. Here we go. This is a pretty interesting idea. Fun fact, the sun isn't actually at the center of our solar system. Yeah. Anyway. I don't remember his full names, his full list of names that he can be named after. I know there's a thing about it. Here we go. Here's the thing. This is interesting, though, is that you can name him that. You can name him A or Makoto. But you can't name him any of these. Can't name him any of the Harbingers. Oh, that's funny. Well, I guess they can't account for every use case, which is fine. But you can name him Perurere or Crucibena, probably because they don't have roles anymore, but still strange. Can't do any of these anymore. Yep. Names of playable characters released before version 3.7 and NPCs. The following names or titles are rejected by system. Name unavailable. Traveler, Morax, Rex Lapis, Kirara, Linny, Lynette, Nuvolette, Eonsen. That's interesting. Ether and Lumine are accepted. Also interesting. But you can name him any of these. This isn't, I didn't know this one. That's new. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's new to me. Still, I do think there's a reason for this one. Specifically. But I am not at liberty to disclose why I think that right now. Because it's part of a very, very long and complex theory that also involves the work of another theorist that I would like to properly cite if and when I finally finish that. So, is I'm accepted? I don't know. It's not listed here. But I mean, like, even then, it already says that all of these demon names are acceptable. Like, you can name him any of these. So, like, even if I'm was accepted, it wouldn't really mean anything. Thoughts on Traveler separate from player theory? Well, yeah. I mean, Traveler is separate from player. I don't think that's a theory. Morax is a sun god. Rex Lapis is the Geo Archon. Kind of, yeah. You named him Phoenix, and now I'm doubtful if it will be the Pyro Archon's name. Could be. I named him Shinji at first. Can we speculate on what the missing part in the Agnidas gemstone is? Any new ideas from the stream? Nope, got nothing. I'm not really one for speculating on that kind of stuff because like it feels kind of pointless. Like this feels kind of pointless. Because let me explain why. Like you could put anything here. Any word. It doesn't have to be someone's name. It could just be Tevat's truth, right? Like it could be anything. You could put anything here because it's not even limited to 2 characters. Like in Simulanka, when you find the story that was left behind by Alice in that little office below the Goddess Island, right? When you read that, you find out that all of the blank spaces were cat paw prints. So they don't actually represent how many letters are missing, right? So like trying to speculate on what that is based on absolutely zero information, like contextually, like no hints, no nothing. I think that's a fool's errand personally, and I'm not particularly interested in making an attempt at it. Dash is a missing word. I mean, it could be the sun, it could be Tevat, it could be Natlans, it could be Im, it could be Malvika, it could be Moraxes, it could be the Travelers, it could be Celestia, it could be anything, honest to God. Anything. What do I think Capitano's constellation is? Did you not watch my last video? I don't mean that as like a condescending sort of thing. I mean that as like I have answered this very recently, so it's not like one of those things that gets buried in, you know, because when you watch something and then like weeks go by, it's like, yeah, whatever. Of course, people don't remember that. That's expected, right? The information's supposed to go out of the head eventually. But like this was a video I put out like 2 or 3 days ago, so I'm sitting here like, you must not have watched it, because I 100% answered it in there. So it's not meant to be like a dig or anything. It's just like, did you? Because I did. I did state it in there. It's been 2.5 hours. Don't I need a break? Probably. I should probably go make lunch. I've barely scratched the surface of any of this, but that's kind of what happens when I come in here without a plan. And also, like, there's just too much in here. And I don't really know, like, what else to say at this point, because like there's so much. You could take this in so many different directions. I think we've learned that NATLAN is like probably okay, well, there's one thing we can say for sure. The reason why the people of NATLAN don't leave their nation is because they can't, because I feel like they have to continuously perform the ritual and always be able to do so in order to prevent their entire nation from dying. So there's that. At least I just realized there's penguins in the lava. Look at it. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. No, penguin. Hey, buddy. That's so funny. All this speculation. What am I most excited for about 5.0? Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. I am most excited for the Night Kingdom. I am so excited for this underground realm, because they're just like, oh, you know, this is the place where everything you know no longer matters. And like, there's celestial nails down here. There's ghosts. There's chasms stuff. Look at them. Look at these things. Look at these things. These things are creepy as hell. They're like little embryos, little ghostly embryos. I don't like it, but I also really like it. I like the dichotomy of having this, but then like also having this, because it's the same thing. It's the same location, but like one is like the night version, and I can't tell if that means that like NATLAN turns into the Night Kingdom at night, because that would be wild if like during the day it was like all nice and happy and fireful, and then at nighttime it suddenly becomes this and there's just ghosts and shit everywhere. That would be wild. That'd be cool. I don't think they're actually going to do that. I think it's going to be like underground or something, and it's like this is a flip side version, but that would be really, 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 really fun, because you'd be traveling around and then all of a sudden the sun would rise and then the whole landscape changes. It would be so cool. So cool. Wonder if there's some inspiration from Twilight Princess. I wouldn't doubt it. They've certainly referenced the Zelda franchise a few times. But I think the Night Kingdom is 100% the thing I am looking forward to the most, because it seems to be the thing that has the most general lore for the whole game as a whole, because we're finally seeing like this idea behind naming come into play, which, if you're not familiar, Genshin's always had a focus on names. It's just never really, they've never really highlighted it. They've never really like put it in your face and been like, hey, so names are important. You know, it's always been like they've mentioned names, they've mentioned something it does, and like what it did was important, but they never really put emphasis on the fact that it was the name that was important, and that was an ongoing theme, if that makes sense. But even just the fact that the Archons are named after demons that are found in the Ars Goetia, right? Like that's a list of demons that Solomon controlled. The fact that they're named that way, and that the demon gods are agents of Celestia in that way, makes you think, oh, well, did Celestia name the Archons in order to gain control over them, because they've assigned them this name, and then this name gives them this role, and that role gives Celestia certain power over them? Kind of like how Lilupar gave the Traveler her true name, which is not Lilupar, by the way. She has an actual name that's like not that. And she told that to the Traveler, and like by doing so, she made a contract with the Traveler, which in some way, you know, gives the Traveler power over her, and she did that willingly. So I think about things like that in the context of NATLAN and this underground nation, and like losing a name and gaining a name and what it means to have that. And then in Simulanka, how we talk about how Anders' daughter really wanted Durin to have a different ending, and that was why she named the little dragon after him. Not because she wanted them to share the same fate or anything like that, but because she wanted the ending to be different. And even in her point in doing so, I think, is that even though you can give someone the same name and it will give them sort of the same experience or role within the story, by changing other parameters within the story, by even just adding a character that wasn't there before, suddenly you can change all of the variables about what that character's ultimate ending is, and that is ultimately what fate is, right? So like her whole point was like, if I put him in this storybook, if I change the scenario a little bit, then his ending is different, right? So I think that's kind of the point. And being able to take on somebody's name means to take on a role and to be a variable that can make those sorts of changes. So I like that. Yeah, Ajax is a pretty good example of this, honestly. Night Kingdom is 100% based on Shibelba. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I don't think there's any argument from me on that at all. 100% Shibelba. Wonder if Albedo is similar to Gold in the same way Scarra is to A. Yeah, I mean, I think it's plausible. I think it's believable for sure. I'll take a couple more questions and then I think I'm gonna hop off and go get lunch because I am hungry. And also Fenris just came in and she's staring at me like, hey, why are you ignoring me? She doesn't like it when I stream because that means she can't get attention. Do I think it's possible for people to steal others' fates by stealing their names, a la Tianguan Sifu. You know what? I was thinking about that the other day because when I was doing those videos on the Xianxia stuff, right? One thing that I had completely forgotten about is that it's actually a pretty common trope in Xianxia for someone to assume someone else's identity by like taking their name, right? And that tricks fate into thinking that, oh, you're supposed to be able to have restrictions of this person because you have this person's name, right? So like that's a real thing. So now that you mentioned Fischl too, like Fischl's very interesting under this context because her name stops mattering. Who she is stops mattering. It's the role that Fischl plays that starts to matter, right? So we can actually start listing out all of the traits that the role Fischl has onto a list, and we can look at other characters in other books and elsewhere in the game to see who has those same traits. And regardless of their name, we can say this is the same role that's being played, right? So I think that's kind of cool. You did watch the last video. What I actually wanted to ask was if Capitano has the hand constellation, then who has the nail constellation instead of him? Honestly, I don't know. Okay, so here's a contentious thing, okay? It's all... Capitano can have the hand if he's a NATLAN native, and I've seen a good argument for the hand being Puccinella's constellation instead, because it could be a Hamsa hand, and there was a good argument to be made for that. I personally think it's way too close to the Hopi healing hand for it to be a Hamsa hand, but I can definitely see the argument for it. So that's a possibility. But I do think that whoever has the Hopi healing hand is from NATLAN. Now, I also think it's possible that he could also be the dove instead of Columbina, which I know would be kind of odd to say, but that would make Columbina the nails instead. It just depends. It just depends. I honestly don't really know. And the reason why I say it's contentious is because I don't want this to be the case, but I do wonder, given Hoyoverse's propensity for wordplay, if they would make a Christopher Columbus pun with the Columbina dove sort of thing. Like, I do wonder if they'll do that. I hope they don't, but that is the one thing that lingers in the back of my mind, like, please don't do this. But also, there is precedence for them making puns like that in the past, and anyway, I don't want it to. Capitano's a third descender collecting his body parts. I don't buy that theory for a second. I don't know who started spreading that theory, but there's zero evidence for it. Like, I fundamentally don't understand why that is a theory. I'm not saying it's not possible, but like, I don't understand it. Like, someone's gotta like write something down and show me why this makes sense. Because I either I've missed something critical or this isn't based on much. Either is equally possible. Columba means dove, though? Yeah, I know. What is the Ichthyosaurus? I'm not sure. I don't know. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I like I said, I've been really behind on NATLAN lore because they've given us so very little to work with over the years as far as like NATLAN is concerned. Like the amount of lore we had going into this was so little. I mean, you could count the sources on one hand because it was so little. And so it's so little to speculate on. And so now that we've started getting a little bit more information about what cultures are being referenced, what locations are being referenced, the sort of characters we're seeing, the themes that are playing into it, now that we're all kind of getting that, like, I am playing a perpetual game of catch up. And it's made worse by the fact that they are referencing such a large area of the world, such a diverse group of cultures and beliefs and mythologies and legends and like cultural practice, like all of this. There's so much that I am playing perpetual catch up, and I am very behind. So for me to be able to say anything definite about a lot of the individual bits that we have, I can't really say. Because, yeah, I just have a lot to catch up on. I'm working on it. Perpetual ketchup. Yeah, well, I can't eat ketchup. I'm allergic to tomatoes. Olivia, thank you for the super. Good afternoon. I love your content. Thank you. I love your comment. Do you have a favorite tribe yet with the little information we have? No, not really. Not really. Lore makers should split up and split the reading tasks. Well, I'd say I agree, but the thing is, like, everyone kind of has their own style on how they like to approach lore. I think on the whole, a lot of theorists have some limits as far as they want to go on certain topics, like outside of the game especially. Some theorists really like to reference pop culture and other games. Some theorists like to stick entirely to just what's in the game and not really go out of it too much. And then some really like to dig into the metaphysical and the cultural and everything else. So like it's so widely varied that to be able to assign things like that is just, it's never gonna happen. But like on the whole, deciphering Genshin and its lore is a very collaborative effort in the sense of like not just content creators or people who write long essays on Reddit, but like everyone who plays, who has interest in it, or who sees some part of their history or their culture represented in the game is contributing into the education of everybody else. So it becomes a collaboration, not just between lore creators, but between every player. And that's something I really like. So I try to learn from everyone around me. Not just people who are creating content, but people who, you know, are represented or even just more knowledgeable than me. I've had people email me documents that they've used for their doctorate studies. You know, like if they're it's kind of wild. I've even had nuclear physicists email me and be like, hey, so I have this PDF you might be interested in because it explains XYZ about radiation. And I'm just like, this is wild. Thank you. But this might be a bit over my head. This is like an actual technical document. But like, you know, you get a lot of stuff like that. So it's fun. It's fun. Everyone in Latin America is picking tiny references. It's very fun. Yeah. I mean, it comes with its own pros and cons, right? Like anytime you reference a real culture, you have to be very careful about how you do it, what you do, and what you mix, right? Because there's a lot of historical sensitivities that can be obviously apparent to people who live in the regions, but not to people who are observing from outside of those regions, and can lead to some less than stellar reception in the end So you're always going to make mistakes and stuff, but I like to see every one of those mistakes as an opportunity to learn, so that like the next time someone references or wants to look at a certain region and write stories about it, that they know. So I think that's cool. How do you feel that we are moving from attacking Fontaine wildlife to attacking NATLAN saurians? I don't have a problem with either, really. How do you join the Discord? The Discord is pseudo moderated by a 99-cent paywall through the YouTube membership. This is to assure that people are real people, so we keep bots out. And also so my mod team doesn't get super overwhelmed, because they're all really nice and sweet and volunteers, and I don't want them to have to deal with a lot of difficult moderating stuff. So basically all you have to do is either get gifted a YouTube membership if someone puts in gifted subs, or pay 99 cents through YouTube and then go into Discord, and you will immediately be able to connect your Discord account to the server. And once you are in the server, you do not have to keep your membership. So when I say it's a 99-cent paywall, that I mean it. It's a 99-cent paywall. It's not in perpetuity. It's once. So that's why that's there. It's just been nice to have like a pseudo open server where it's not like 100% open, where everyone can wander in. And it helps to keep the community a bit tighter and feeling a bit more lore focused, which I do like. It's nice. It ends up being smaller, but I think that's also a good thing. What's the Discord called? Right now it's called Shroomaroo Academia, because we're mushroom themed. Did we see the capybaras? Yeah, I was not expecting to see capybaras, man. I was not expecting to see those. Capybaras are so strange. They're so strange. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to actually like comb through every instance of this trailer before NATLAN actually comes out. Because I do have a lot of stuff to do between now and then. And I will say, it's probably going to take me a little bit beyond the launch of the region to put together any good solid theories. So you might see me making very minimal NATLAN content for like the first part of 5.0. I'll probably be working a little bit more on some Hexenzirkel stuff, specifically around Alice, just to tie us over while I'm sifting through all of the new information. And that's kind of par for the course, though. Like whenever a new region drops, it's usually like a lot of information all at once, and it's a little difficult to figure out what we're actually doing. So we'll see. With how many NPCs there are from the Cryo Nations, we know very little in terms of actual substance. Considering how hostile the Harbingers can be, I'm not surprised. Yeah, we'll see. What do you think the reason why the Traveler can't get the pyro element? Maybe there is something wrong. I've already talked about this earlier in the stream. So because we're at the end and I'm going to wrap up here soon, I'm going to just not answer that for right now. Do you think the Traveler will gain the Hydronosis as a ticket to enter Shazam? No, the Pyronosis maybe, but the Hydronosis is already in Arlecchino's hands, so not that one. If you don't pick a stopping point, you can go on all day. Yeah, I know. You're right. You're right. I should just go. I should just go. I don't know. I feel like I haven't covered anything, but like I feel like that's always gonna. I feel like I could go literally all day. You're right, and still not have covered anything. It's a lot, and I have a lot of work to do. Can I just comment on how Kinich has friggin' Godzilla how? He has Godzilla in his kit. He's like Ben 10 with Godzilla. I can't stand this guy. Just like, go. Aw. What a nerd. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Hopefully this was helpful for some people. I know these are a little bit more scattered. Yeah, a little bit more scattered of a thing than like a proper, here's what I actually want to talk about breakdown, but that's okay. I think that's fine. I'm very excited overall for the region. Obviously, I still have some small problems with some of the presentation of certain aspects of it, but my hope is that this is still a great educational experience for people to learn more about regions and cultures that don't really get talked about at all. Or at least very often. So I'll take my wins where I can get them. Yeah. I guess I'll see. I won't see you guys there. I'll be streaming one more time, I think, before NATLAN comes out. So if you guys have any questions, you notice anything before then, write them down and come back next time. And Esper, thank you for this super. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate all of you for showing up. My God, there's 2,000 people here. What the heck? How do you become a member? I can't show you on mine because I'm looking at my own channel and I'm signed in as myself, so that doesn't really help. I think someone else might have to show you. I think it's hard on mobile. I think you might have to do it on desktop. I don't know why, but sometimes on mobile it's weird. If you guys want to get to the Discord, there are instructions on the community post after you've joined. You just search for the members only community post. It'll have all the instructions on how to link your Discord account to the Discord server. But like, you can also look up on Discord's FAQ. You basically go into your account, you click settings, you go down to integrations, and you should be able to see my server pop up if you're a YouTube member. But you have to make sure that your Discord is connected to your YouTube account, which is the one thing that you're going to have to do in your integrations thing in order to gain access. And then after that, you should be all right. There's a become a member button, except there is sometimes isn't on mobile. Yeah, I know it's weird on mobile. It doesn't always display. I don't know. Miss Sage Geiger, thank you for the 10 gifted. If you got a gifted from them, make sure to say thank you. Greatly appreciated. And again, thank you guys all so much for coming out. I hope this was fun. I hope this was informative. I hope you noticed something or learned something that you didn't know before. That's always the goal here. I'm really hyped for this. Haven't been this hyped in a while. Plus all of the quality of life updates that they gave and everything just makes everything so much better. I guess it's no longer Genshin could never. It's now just Genshin could. The little engine that could, but it's Genshin, little Genshin that could. All right, I'm gonna go, but thanks again, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys later. I've got more stuff coming up for you. Take care. Have a good weekend.